The reason we started our NZ Ahead private community is so that the people who are moving to New Zealand get on the ground, honest, real life, practical information about moving to New Zealand.
People can go in and be quite disappointed that there aren't certain things they're going to get, like, the centralised heat or double glazing. So you can absolutely get those things. You just have to pay more money for them.
Today, you're going to be talking to one of our community members. She is called Nikki. She lives in Auckland and her job is to help people find property to rent in Auckland, New Zealand, before you even get into the country. It's a fascinating story. Nikki's going to talk to us about 5 things you have to be aware of when renting a property in Auckland, New Zealand, so that when you get to New Zealand, you're not left with a whole lot of things you weren't expecting. So let's jump on in and find out the 5 things you really need to be aware of when renting a property in Auckland, New Zealand.
NZ Ahead, coming to you from Taranaki, New Zealand.
Nikki, welcome back to the NZ Ahead podcast. I think this is the 3rd time you've been on this podcast now. And so I just feel like, we're co-hosts by this point.
Yeah, I'm pushing Brian out. So's Brian.
Yeah.
It's just me now, me and Liz.
Exactly. For those who haven't watched your previous episodes or listened to your previous podcasts, tell me a little bit about yourself and how you come to be living in Auckland, New Zealand.
Yeah, of course. So I'm Nikki and I moved from Manchester in the UK over to Auckland in 2022 with my husband and my 2 small children at the time, who are now growing up in Auckland as little adopted Kiwi kids.
Adopted Kiwi, I love that. And for those of people who don't know, who didn't catch the last episode, Nikki's business is helping people to find rental homes in and around Auckland. Do you expand further than Auckland, or is it just Auckland you concentrate on?
Auckland's the main focus because it's where I live. It's where I feel that I add most value, but also I do cover the upper North Island, really. So down as low as Taupo and then up past Whangarei, Northland. So if it's within 3 or 4 hours of Auckland, I'm very happy to go and look at houses for people out there.
Oh, do you know what? I'm in awe of your business. I am absolutely in awe. And I just said to you before we started recording, this episode is going to be so helpful for those who are moving to New Zealand, particularly, like you said, in that sort of area at the Upper North Island. You're living in America or South Africa or Canada or UK, whatever, Europe, and you have no idea what you're coming to. We get here and we stay in Airbnbs or motels or whatever, and we hope for the best. So the fact that you've started this business, that you go out and vet these houses and find these houses and, all the great locations, and then you work with the people. It's an absolutely fantastic concept. And I'm so excited to be talking to you today about how to find a rental in New Zealand. And I think we're going to be talking about the five things you need to consider when renting a house in New Zealand, aren't we?
Yeah, and it's going to be very hard to keep succinct because it's such a massive topic. I feel like there may be some tangents incoming, Liz, as we go through. Yeah,
definitely. Yeah. We love tangents. So you are the queen of rentals, especially around Auckland. You have been probably around hundreds and hundreds of houses looking at different rentals. So you know your stuff. So let's start with number 1. We're going to talk about the Healthy Home Standard, which if you are not from New Zealand, you would not have a clue what this meant. Tell us what this means and what people have to consider.
So Healthy Homes is the name that people kind of colloquially give to some legislation that came in a few years ago about the standard that a house needs to be let out either as a rental home or a holiday home as well. And its aim is to try and raise the quality of rental homes generally in New Zealand, and to ensure that some of the very traditional problems with Kiwi homes that you might hear circulating on the internet are kind of mitigated against. So really, it's a charter that landlords have to stick to in order to be able to rent out their home. And it deals with things like making sure that the living area is heated. It deals with things like drafts, mold, and it sets out how a landlord should be maintaining their property for you as a tenant. So it's actually really important that people get to know what classes under healthy homes and what landlords are actually obligated to do and what they're not, because I always think information is power, and you're coming into this situation probably not knowing a huge amount about Kiwi homes if you've not lived in them before. So yeah, I would highly recommend people look up healthy home standards if they're about to rent a house in New Zealand.
Right. So does it just mean like they can't rent out damp houses, or they can't rent out like if there's mold on the ceiling? Would they be? Are they? Does it mean that they're not allowed to do that because they have got to comply to the healthy home standard?
So it gets complicated, as all legislation does, because there's an element of reasonableness that has to be expected. So there are certain things that a landlord wouldn't be expected to put in because they would be prohibitively expensive for the landlord. So there is some grey area within there. But for example, one of the most common things that has seen improvements since healthy home standards have come in is that all of the living areas in a rental house now, there must be at least one living area that's heated. So the most common way that would be done in New Zealand would be through a heat pump, which is like a big white box on the wall, and it does cooling in the summer, it does dehumidifying, most of them, and it also does heating. But they might also put like a wall storage heater. And I suppose actually, let's back up, Nikki. New Zealand homes don't often have centralised heating and cooling or central heating like through a radiator system, do they?
No, they don't, as Brian well knows and tells us every single day.
I know, I feel like maybe I should clear off and let Brian co-host again.
No, it's nice to hear it from someone else, believe me.
Yeah. So because of that, because a lot of the homes don't have centralised heat, the insulation is extremely variable, including roof insulation. An awful lot of older Kiwi homes that weren't built recently will only have single glazing, for example. So all of these things are very different than probably the countries that people are moving from. And it is a little bit of a change to get your head around of how things are built in New Zealand. I mean, I don't know whether you found this, being British, obviously I'm used to houses being built of brick, but in a country that has seismic considerations, brick is not a sensible building material.
No. I know. And people are really shocked by that, aren't they? They're like, well, it's like all the houses just look like wooden shacks. And you're like, no, they're built to very, very high standards, but they're built, like you say, for earthquake proof. So we can't build them out of stone.
No. And I think all of these things, they are different than what you're coming from. And yeah, so it's just about understanding what's reasonable to expect in your rental home, because otherwise people can go in and be quite disappointed that there aren't certain things they're going to get, like, the centralised heat or double glazing. So you can absolutely get those things. You just have to pay more money for them. So again, it's about managing budget expectations as well. And there are certain things that should be done and maintained by the landlord as part of healthy homes. And it's really important when you if I was, say, viewing a house for someone else, or if you're viewing a house, to know what those expectations are so you know what's reasonable and what's not.
Yeah. Let me just give you a scenario. Let's say I've got $750 a week to spend in Auckland, and I see this house and I absolutely love it. Or you go and see it for me and you say, Liz, it's absolutely lovely, but there is one bedroom, let's say, that is damp, and there's damp on the walls and it's cold and it's a bit moldy. Could you, or would you, or could you go back to the landlord and go, look, she loves the house, but this and that, would they have to sort it out by law, or would they like take some money off the price of the house, or would they just say, oh, well, forget it, I'll rent it to someone else? What would be I like making up these little scenarios in my head.
Yeah, thanks for dropping me that one on me.
You don't have to answer if you don't
No,
want.
it's fine. It's a really annoying answer. Is genuinely the one. And I know all the lawyers will be like switching in their seats now.
Sorry.
There are certain things that landlords are responsible for, but like anywhere, you get landlords that are more amenable and landlords that are less amenable. You get agents that are more amenable and landlords that are less amenable. And unfortunately, that's often driven by the market. So there are some unscrupulous landlords who will just be like, well, you know what, we've got 3 other applicants, so it's a bit tough if you don't like it. I'm not saying that that's actually legally or ethically what they should do. Those ones are pretty rare, though. Most landlords in New Zealand, they want a good relationship with the tenant. The agent wants a good relationship with the tenant. And I know, especially for people coming from the States, again, this is quite a big change, is that the agent acts purely in the landlord's interest here. So there's not someone looking out for renters. It's part of the reason why I'm developing this business.
Doing your
because you
job,
looked
yes.
after the people renting.
Oh, I love that. I absolutely love that. You're so right. You're so right. That's so true, because it is. It's all about, the landlord, isn't it? And Oh, thank you for sticking up for us renters.
But it's
even though I'm not a renter anymore.
Landlords and the good landlords and the good agents, they will care about the renters. And I think that's one of the things that actually it's really important to kind of get that sense when you're first dealing with an agent or a landlord is this someone who's filling me with confidence that if I come to them and something's broken, they're going to prioritize fixing it? Is the communication good? Yes, they're the ones who hold the power in that they say yes or no as to whether you can rent this house. But just like a job interview, you need to know, is this a person I can work with? Because again, a lot of people have been homeowners in their own country. To go back into the tenant rental mindset is quite a big shift when you move into a country.
It really is. It really is. We should have added that as an extra one, shouldn't we? Because it's that mindset of like, I think I talked about it on the live Zoom on the Slack call the other week, was like, all of a sudden you're going cap in hand when you've owned your own property for 20 odd years or whatever. And all of a sudden you've got to start proving to landlords that, oh, I'm a really nice person and I won't put pictures up on your wall if you don't want me to, and all the rest of it. And it's a big mindset shift, isn't it, Nikki?
It is. And some people find it really aggravating that they do have to ask those and that they do have to go back into the rental mindset. I think there's real positives to it as well. Because I know a lot of people are disappointed to find out that you either can't buy or there's hoops you have to jump through to be able to buy when you first land in New Zealand. But I'm quite a big fan of renting first, because I think it gives you real advantages in terms of working out your cost of living, in terms of checking that you're in the right place in New Zealand before you're fully committed, in terms of getting your head around, what does a good Kiwi house look like? Am I in the right school zone for my kids, which I know we're going to come on to later. So but it is a mindset shift. And it's like you say, all of a sudden you're like, I've got to ask for permission, or I've got to ask for someone to do this for me. That's really annoying. So
yes. Yeah.
I think
it's another thing to consider, isn't it?
It really is. And is this agent and landlord someone that I feel comfortable and confident with? As much as they're assessing you, we're also assessing them. Are they going to be one of the good ones?
Yeah, that's a really good point. That's a really good point. So number 2, we talked about the natural hazard risk. What's the natural hazard risk that people have to be aware of when renting a property in New Zealand?
So this varies across New Zealand. As we mentioned before, there is an earthquake seismic consideration. So there are maps that show you where the risk is higher and lower across New Zealand. So that would be something definitely to consider, say, around Wellington, for example. And that band of that kind of lower North Island. For me, where I am in Auckland, just after we arrived, we had a double whammy of the Auckland anniversary floods and a cyclone that hit, which I know also affected lots of other parts of New Zealand as well. So Auckland Council have really moved very specifically on this to try and help people understand flood risk, because an awful lot of homes flooded that had never been at risk of flood before. They kind of called it like a 1 in 100 years event, but there have been subsequent flooding events in Auckland. So it's where you're moving to will have specific risks, and it's about making sure you check them. So for example, when you come to rent a house in Auckland, even on Trade Me now, you can click the flood map. It will show you where the likely floodplains are and whether or not that house is in it.
Right. Okay. Oh, horrible if you were the landlord and your house is sitting right in the middle of the floodplain, wouldn't it? No chance of renting that then. But better lower your rent down. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, because people in your community were affected by it who just moved to Auckland. Like I said, these houses that were never perceived to be at risk, all of a sudden it was such an unusual amount of rain, which I guess is only going to happen more and more often. So it's about understanding what new risks have you got to consider in this new place that you're moving to that you didn't have to consider in your home country, and making sure that you've done the research on them. So I would always say anyone who's renting in Auckland, check that flood map. Don't rent a property without checking it.
No. That's really, really good advice. And again, it's I don't want to go off on a tangent, but when we moved to Taranaki, for instance, I remember Brian's sister saying, well, there's no way I'd live anywhere that had a dormant volcano sitting next to us. It's also taken into account. Yes, I don't want to sound flippant here, and I'm certainly not, saying that not to take it seriously, but it's also to take into account what you could do if that happened, not to, I suppose what I'm trying to say is don't be like so scared and you're like, oh no, I can't live anywhere that's got the risk of like the slightest thing. I think it's all about balance, isn't it? Does that make sense when I say that?
Definitely, because it is really easy to hear these words, and especially if they've not been part of your life where you're from, they feel very scary. So yeah, like you say, dormant volcano, some people's instant reaction to that is just no, absolutely not.
No.
And it's like you say, it's not just does the risk exist, it's like, balance, I think is a good word of how likely is that risk and how comfortable am I with living with that risk. And like I say, different areas of New Zealand have got all of these big scary words: earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes. They are scary when you hear them and they're not part of your everyday life. But I think what you've said there is really important, is keeping the perspective of how likely is this risk and being sensible about it.
Yes. Yeah. All right, let's move on to number 3, which is work and school. So is this about choosing a house where you work or where the kids go to school? Or tell me more about what we're talking about when we say work and school when renting a house.
You are here because you love New Zealand.
You might be moving to New Zealand,
Living in New Zealand, or you might just spend your days dreaming of visiting this gorgeous country. Because we love New Zealand as much as you do, we have compiled a short and very unique 5-day video series showcasing life in New Zealand, what it's really like. These videos are real, they are exclusive, and best of all, they're absolutely free. So if you would like to view New Zealand from the inside out and find out what life is really like down here, sign up now, and every day for 5 days we will send you a personal 3-minute video showcasing some brilliant aspect of life in New Zealand. You are gonna love it. Go to www.nzahead.com/free. We can't wait to share those videos with you. Okay, let's get back on with the show.
Or tell me more about what we're talking about when we say work and school when renting a house.
I mean, this is often the deciding factor for people. So as you kind of narrowing down, right, first of all, I'm going to move to New Zealand. Okay, I've been offered a job in Auckland, so I'm going to be living in Auckland. So that is often the thing that kind of sets your parameters for where your search is going to be. And it's just really important to consider. For example, school zones have a massive impact on Auckland rent. So you can go 2 streets and move into a new school zone and the rent could jump by $300 a week. We're talking about that extreme. Yeah. Especially some of the areas in the middle of the city, for example, that are in what's known as the double grammar zone. So there's all these little things that are going to have an impact on people's rent. And again, commuting options. So are you definitely going to commute in the car? Are you open to public transport? If you are, how long do you want that to be? The traffic times in Auckland are very, very different at 7:15 a.m. than they would be at 11 a.m. So your start time at work is going to have an influence as well. So it's about, I think, starting to look at the big picture of, yes, okay, I feel like I want to be in a location, say, that's got easy access to a beach. What impact is that going to have on my commute? And am I willing to accept that impact? And it's that compromise again, that when you rent a house in New Zealand, you're almost certainly going to have to compromise on some aspects unless you have unlimited budget. So which ones are you more willing to compromise on and which ones are you not? And getting that really clear. I always think people should write a priority list. Like, this is the order. And
yes.
And just
that's a really good idea.
That. Yeah, use it as a way of, okay, this house offers us all of this, but it's got a compromise that's in my top 2 or 3 that I wasn't really willing to compromise on. So how do I feel about that? Because we were speaking before this call started about the kind of fear and uncertainty that people feel going into this process when they haven't done it before. And that is massive. But I don't want people to feel like they have to make a compromise that they're not willing for. Just because they're so desperate to get a house and they're so panicked about the process of getting the house. It doesn't need to be that scary. And that's why I think logically listing things out, what is my key priority? What am I more willing to compromise on? When you're in that emotion of, I've been offered this house and do I want it? Do I not? Is that compromise too big? It gives you something logical to refer back to. And I think work and school is a big part of that for most people.
Yeah. And do you know, Nikki, I think that's one of the reasons why your service is, and this isn't scripted, and we hadn't planned to say this. This is just me thinking off the top of my head, is because when you come into a new country, when you move to New Zealand, and you've got you just want everything, all your ducks lined up in a row, and I just want it all to be perfect, and I want to have this perfect house, and my kids are at a perfect school, and everything. I can just settle into my life, and you make decisions based on all that, like because you're like, oh no, and I think it's really lovely to be able to have someone who is who is not involved in your head, is not in your messy head and your messy emotions, and they can make the decisions for you, and they can act as like a second, like a little person sitting on your shoulder going, well, look, you do realize this and that. I just think that's absolutely fantastic, because personally, I panic. And like we've gone to buy houses before, and like I'm like, I just want it, and it's like, and it's not until you step back, or maybe you don't get that house, that you think, oh, thank God we didn't get that, because if we'd have got that, we'd have had to do A, B, and C, and nothing would have worked out, sort of thing. So I think it's a really brilliant service that you're offering to people. I really do, and your advice on making a list of priorities and what you're willing to compromise on is absolutely fantastic. It's such good advice. It's such good advice. Yeah.
I think it's so difficult for people moving, because it's like the house renting process can feel quite opaque from the outside. The thing that people say to me most often is, I'm just so fed up because I've been trying to contact agents and I just hear nothing back. Like, I see a listing, I contact them about trying to arrange a viewing. Either my friend's going to go, or we're here and we're ready to go, or I would quite like them to try and do an online viewing for them. And I just never get any response. And it can feel really frustrating from the outside. But once you've got a process of working through it, it becomes much easier. And I think that's one of the things that I'm so keen at. We made lots of mistakes when we moved here, lots and lots of rookie mistakes. And I really want to help people avoid that. And it's one of the reasons I generally work with my clients by direct message on WhatsApp normally, rather than email, because I want them to have someone on the end of the phone who they literally feel like, I feel like this is a really silly question, but I can ask it of Nikki anyway. It's really important to me that we have that, that they feel like they've basically got a friend on the ground who's going to look for them. That is what I want. I want them to feel that they're getting a professional service with someone who knows what they're talking about, but just ultimately someone who's on their side, who is helping them. I worked with one family a few weeks ago. I've not had this before. They applied and the landlord then said, yes, but we're going to put the rent up by $100 a week. That's a negative situation that I haven't come across before. But I was able to kind of say to them, I really don't think that house, you get a market value for that house if you go 100. And I could see that they, again, were like, but we want the bird in the hand rather than in the bush.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And that goes back to what we were just saying before, is you need that person who's removed from the emotional side of it, who can give you some solid advice. Why did the landlords not get back to people then when they're applying from overseas? Why are they just leaving them with crickets kind of thing?
The agents tend not to reply because it generally works on open home system here. So you don't book in a viewing to go and see a house. An agent advertises a viewing time and you get your backside there to go and view the house when the agent says. And so normally, especially in somewhere that's as busy as Auckland, and obviously this varies season to season and year to year, but normally they've got enough applicants who can do that without needing to hold someone's hand, that they don't actually need your application at that stage.
Right.
And it can be really frustrating. Also, one of the things you find with some of the listings, they look live, but they've actually effectively been rented. They just haven't taken the listing down. So you could spend a lot of time chasing a listing that's not even still accepting applicants. So it can get really frustrating.
Yeah. And on top of everything else, like I say, we've both moved to New Zealand, so we know what we're talking about here. On top of everything else that you're going through, and you've got your kids and you're saying goodbye to your family and your containers coming over, you just want something which is a big, massive thing, to go smoothly. And that poor family who they said put $100 up. I'm glad you talked them out of that, because that was good advice from you. So
Well, thankfully, they found their absolute dream house. They were actually a family who were already in New Zealand, and they had a house viewing booked the next day, and it was literally their dream house, and that's the one they went with, which was cheaper than the
see?
one where the landlord had tried to. And it's like you say, it works out, doesn't it? And that's
Yeah.
what's so lovely. One of my favourite parts of this job is that sometimes I go and collect people from the airport when they've arrived, and just getting to be that person who's the first person to kind of say hi in the arrivals lounge is just incredible. Because like you say, we've done this. We remember that feeling of with the house as well. It's just like, please, no more life admin. Like, I am sick of documents. I'm sick of admin. I just want it sorted and off my plate. And we remember all of those emotions. And I think
we do.
It's just so lovely to work with people as they're going through it and to be able to relate to them and say, it's all going to be okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you want, isn't it? Someone just to say, it's going to be okay. So going on to number 4, we've got written down amenities and leisure time when you're renting, something to consider when you're renting a house. Tell me more about amenities and leisure time.
So this kind of ties in with the work and school. But obviously people will think more about work because it's compulsory. So if they're going to have to commute to the city 3 days a week, that will be in their minds when they're thinking about where to rent. But we move across the world, we uproot our lives, say goodbye to our friends and family, move our kids, whatever it might be, because we're going to come on to this a bit later as well, but we have this idea in our head about what life is going to be like. And I know you and Brian talk a lot about like, oh, I'm moving to New Zealand for the lifestyle. What does that actually mean? Well, it means something different to every single person. My version of it is not yours, and Brian's version of it isn't the same as my next door neighbour's version of it. And so I think, again, for me, we've got kids, they do a lot of extracurricular activities. So I don't want to be the one when they're 15, 16, who's having to drive them. I wanted a bus network so that they can hop on the bus and have some level of independence. I don't want to be the family Uber forever. I am right now. It takes a lot of my time.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love being on the sideline for them while they're little kids, but pretty soon they're not going to want me to do that. So I want them to be able to have that level of independence. Everything's 15 minutes away from where we live. We're so lucky. How far do you want the beach? Do you want cafes and restaurants, walking distance, or are you happy to hop in the car? What does that lifestyle look like from outside of work? Work's an easy one to consider because it's compulsory. But I really would encourage people to think, okay, on my weekends, what do I want outside my house? Where do I want my house to be? What do I want to feel when I walk out of my front door? And do I want to walk? Do I want to drive? Do I want to hop on the bus? All of those things that you need nearby. And again, there's going to be a level of compromise because we don't always get everything that we want. But what's important to you from your life outside of work? Because one of the wonderful things about Kiwi life is that it's not just about work here. In fact, it's about work as least as we can reasonably make it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's so true, isn't it? And if you haven't listened to our latest podcast where we talked to Nikki about all the things in Auckland, the misconceptions about Auckland, go back and listen to that or watch the YouTube video because that was a fantastic section about Auckland and how Auckland is so much more than a city. I loved that. We want to talk about that, this whole, moving to New Zealand and you have this image in your mind about living the dream, basically, isn't it? I'm going to move to New Zealand. I'm going to be living the dream and finding a house that's to rent that supports that. Because let's face it, we don't want to come to New Zealand and spend 2 years living in a house we can't stand and, it's just sterile and whatever. But just hold that thought, because before we move on to that last section of things to consider, I do want to ask you a personal question. What activities do your kids do? I'm just dying to know what is all these activities that they do?
It would be easier to ask what activities my kids do not do, Liz.
Really?
Yeah. I think it's one of the things
what do they do
about being here. I mean, I think I've mentioned in previous podcasts, my kids are now 12 and 8, just about to be 9. So primary school and intermediate school level. And they have been able to launch themselves into sport here, which is just perfect for them from the minute they arrived. So just so much more access, I would say, at a younger age to that. Just to give you a bit of an idea, we've got netball, hockey, football, touch rugby, athletics, triathlons. We also do a bit of singing, guitar, piano. We've got all sorts going on in this house. I know I've forgotten some cricket. And yeah, they are here, there and everywhere. So basically, if it's fun with a bat and a ball or with other kids enjoying themselves, they'll get stuck in.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for answering that. I just knew that all the parents out there listening to the podcast were going to be thinking, ask her what our kids do, because when you said you were running all over the place. So tell me, are you living the Kiwi dream there in Auckland?
Oh, now, yes, I am. I genuinely feel, and in fact, Ollie and I were saying this on the beach yesterday. Ollie's my husband. We're now both self-employed. And so we have this ability that we never had in the UK to organise our work lives in a way that works for us. And yes, we could have done that in the UK, but I feel like it felt so much more accessible in New Zealand. But to build that in the location we're in, my dream, my whole life, to get very big picture and airy-fairy, was to live by the ocean. And I have that. And I just, to me, that is what I watch my kids have, this independence, this freedom, this access to all of these things that I don't feel like I was giving them in the UK in the life that we were living. And that is why we moved. And I feel like all 4 of our family members have got it. And it doesn't come without sacrifice. You know, there are always the family and friends that you've left back at home that are there. But from does my day-to-day life resemble my Kiwi dream? Absolutely.
Oh, that's lovely.
I'm lucky.
That's so lovely. You are. Yes. Yeah, that's all I wanted to know. So talking about the Kiwi dream, talk to me about when people come over, they move over to New Zealand, they hire you as the Kiwi Flies, and they say, find me a home that I want to feel like you, Nikki. I want to feel like I'm living the dream in New Zealand. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. I mean, that is fundamentally at the core of why I do this and what I want to do. Yes, okay, I turn up to houses, I view houses, I love viewing houses. I go and sniff in closets and check that they're not mouldy for people. I do all this stuff. I'll go outside and check that the roof isn't falling off, and I'll highlight any, logistical things that might be a consideration about the house. But ultimately, I'm being that person who's trying to convey to the person who's working with me, would they get that feeling? Everyone in house hunting always talks about the feeling, don't they? Yeah. And whether I'm with someone viewing it or whether I'm viewing it for them on a video screen, I have mentioned before, I am obsessive about research. So I can't tell you the number of YouTube videos I watched of people just driving around the areas we were considering. And so this is what I want to help people with. Yes, I can show them a house. Yes, I can smell the closets. But I also will get in the car and drive the commute to school, or I'll show you where your nearest gym is, or I'll drive and show you what the cafes are like, or I'll walk you to the nearest park or to the beach and film all of that, because I want people to have a real sense of what not just this house is, but what this life is. And is it giving them, when they sit in their living room back at home and they close their eyes and they think, this is what it's going to be like when I live in New Zealand. I want the whole picture to resemble that as close as possible. And yes, I'm going to give them a dose of realism, maybe on budget, or, modern versus older and all of those things. Yes, absolutely, they're important. But does it look like it looks when you close your eyes? How can we get you as close to that within your realistic budget constraints as possible? And that's my favourite bit.
You just light up when you talk about this. You absolutely light up. It's wonderful to see. What's been your favourite moment? If you could pinpoint one moment since you've been doing all this and helping people get rentals in the Auckland area, can you think of one moment that you've just thought, this is worth every single bit of effort that I'm putting into all this?
Oh, I'm so lucky. Like I say, I've been doing this for a year now coming up, and I already feel like I could give you 10 answers to that question of moments. But I think that probably the one that stands out was one of our very, very early clients. They were lovely, moving over from just outside Chicago in Illinois. and moving with 2 big dogs, husky cross. And so pets adds a whole layer of complexity to the house hunting process. And they were getting nowhere. They couldn't book their pet relocation until they had a permanent address. They kept needing a Kiwi phone number to be able to book certain things. And they were just going round and round in circles. And they were stuck in this tumbleweed situation with the agents as well. And I just said to him, put my address and then you can swap it when you've got your own. And through the screen, the relief that I could feel with them, that it was that simple. And they said, we've been struggling with this problem for 4 weeks and you literally just solved it for us. Those moments, all of the things that I would have answered to that question are those moments where people are struggling and it seems so hard and there's something tiny I can do and it makes it easier for them. That is all I really want to do in this business.
Yeah. Oh, that's fantastic. That is so fantastic. I love that. My hairs are standing up on my arms when you're telling me that. So I know, before I let you go, I know that people with pets, but let's just talk quickly about that. What about if you're bringing pets to New Zealand? Am I going to have a chance of finding a rental if I've got pets?
Absolutely, you are. Like I say, it adds another layer of complexity. It means that you need to be even more patient and persistent. They're the 2 Ps in this house hunting process. You've just got to be patient and persistent. You might not get the first house you apply for, you might not get the second or the third. So you've got to be in for the long haul and accept that it might not be an instant jigsaw puzzle fitting in. And the pets add, as I say, an extra layer. But ultimately, the pets also come with the same considerations as the tenants. So when you're doing your references and things for the landlord, and the agent, you're showing that you're a person who's going to pay on time, that you're a person who's going to look after the property, and that you're a person who's easy to work with. And you actually just need to do the same for the pets. The legislation changed in New Zealand in December 25, so it's still relatively new, where the onus is now much more on landlords saying yes to pets than no, which is a change. And with it has brought a whole load of other protections for landlords to try and reassure people who are landlords that if a tenant does damage your property, you can charge an additional pet bond or deposit of 2 weeks rent, so that they know they've got that money in a deposit scheme if they need to cover any damage, and that tenants are liable for damage caused by pets now. But what we're finding and what I'm seeing is that means that there's a whole range of landlords opening up rentals to people with pets who 6 months ago would have just said blanket no pets. So that's actually been a real positive for people who are coming over with pets.
Yeah. Because
It's
in the
just that
community,
reassurance.
yeah. And I'm so happy about that, because we have so many people in the Slack community that are bringing their pets over, their dogs and their cats. So that's really good to know. I mean, we're renting our house at the moment, and we've got a cat in there. We've rented it before when we went to Europe. She had a little dog. I think it's just about communicating. And I know someone in the community, they made a little video of their dog, like doing all these different activities, and they they put it as part of their application, which is such a good idea. That's such a good idea, because brilliant for the landlord to be able to see that, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's what the landlords want. They want that reassurance that having the pet in isn't going to increase the risk. And actually, pet owners will find that really frustrating, because they know that actually being a pet owner often makes you more diligent and more aware of making sure you're taking care of everything. And it's just about showing the landlords that you understand that. And this is actually where, if you are a homeowner in your own country, that can be a real advantage. People often think that that's a disadvantage because they don't have a current landlord's reference. But actually, the fact that you can say, I'm going to be a landlord, or I've owned my own home, I understand your perspective, is a real advantage for people, especially with pets. That they understand that agents and landlords are looking for people who are going to take care of their property. And there's no reason why responsible pet owners can't prove that they're able to do that.
That's great. That's really brilliant. Nikki, it's been so wonderful talking to you. And like I say, we could just talk for hours and hours and hours, but I know this is going to be so helpful to people. You are, like I said before in one of the other podcasts, you are one of the original founders of the NZ Ahead podcast, the NZ Ahead community. You're there in our Slack community. You've got your own channel. You're there to help people if they want to use your services. If people want to reach out to you, what's the best way they can find you?
So the easiest way is to go onto my website, which is www.asthekiwiflies.com. asthekiwiflies.com. There's multiple ways to contact me on there. Like I say, I'm a WhatsApp girl. So there's a direct message WhatsApp if you just want to send me a message. Email, you can check out all of my services there. One of the things that I'm really keen to do with this business is to not keep it all behind a paywall. So if you have messages that you want to send and just a quick question, please reach out to me. Don't feel that if we're not working together that I'm unavailable to help you. But yeah, there's lots of ways to contact me on there. And yeah, if you're looking for someone who is going to be obsessive about finding you the right house in Auckland, then do get in touch, because I love talking Auckland houses. I love talking New Zealand. Like you say, we could carry this podcast on forever.
Yes, we could.
Yeah, just get in touch. If you've got questions and you want to ask something, please just get in touch. Where I can, and I will help.
Yes. And thank you for being part of the community and just being there, helping people. I always see you on the housing channel. We've got an Auckland channel, and you're always on there chatting and helping people. And I can vouch for that you're just always there helping anyway. So it's like, it's fantastic. And we value you being part of our community. And
thanks
for joining
Sometimes I worry
me on
that
this.
You see my name pop up and you think, oh, it's her again. Stop answering.
Not at all. No. Nikki, thanks so much for joining us. And next time we'll boot Brian out again and you can join me to be a co-host again.
Brilliant. I'm up for it. Thanks so much, Liz.
Okay. Speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Speak soon. Bye.
I really hope you enjoyed that show as much as I enjoyed recording it. If you're moving to New Zealand and you are interested in joining the Slack group, the private community group that we raved about and talked about on today's show, then you need to head over and get our free 5-day video guide. This is a video guide that sends you a video every day for 5 days, sharing some aspect of what life in New Zealand is like. It's absolutely free. And then when you get to the 5th day, you will be given the option of whether or not you want to join the private community, the one that we talked about. It's a fabulous, fabulous resource. I don't need to say anything more because you've already heard all about it. Go over, take the free 5-day video guide, get to day 5, and then you can decide whether or not you'd like to be a member and join our private community along with me and Brian and all those other fabulous people that are walking along the same path as you and making the move to New Zealand. So head on over to www.nzahead.com/free. Head on over to www.nzahead.com/free and get your free 5-day video guide. Get to day 5 and then you decide if you want to come and join us in our private membership group. I hope to see you on the other side. We speak to hundreds of people who are making the move to New Zealand every single day. And when we ask them, what part of New Zealand are you going to be living in? They say, probably anywhere but Auckland.
We were quite scared of that before we came. It was one of the main reasons why we looked away from Auckland originally. We heard that you really need this amount of money to live well, or things are going to cost so much more. And there are...
Today, you're going to speak to someone who didn't say that. Nikki moved to Auckland, New Zealand with her family 4 years ago, and she has never left. She calls herself a proud Aucklander, and she's going to share with you today 7 things that people told her about Auckland that turned out not to be true. So let's jump on in and talk to Aucklander Nikki.